Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jerry Sansing back with another edition of the South Texas News and Reviews. This is December the 20th on a Saturday, and the information about this is there. My name is Gerald Sansing. I can be reached at gsansing@gmail.com. This show is also available on YouTube. If you just go in and punch in Gerald Sansing, it'll bring these shows up, and another one that I'm doing now for the Taxpayers Association, which is what's going on in Corpus Christi. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here. I'll be right back. Okay, being a one-man show, I've got the camera rolling. I'm going to go take my spot as usual, and we'll let the games begin, so to speak. Again, my name is Jerry Sansing. I'm the chair of the Clean Economy Coalition, so I'm wearing my t-shirt again tonight. I may mention the lies and so forth that the city council's been telling you good people out there about the annexation so that we can block the Apex wind farm out there in Chapman Ranch area and mess those landowners around and make some good money for all their real estate buddies down there. The city council, I call it the real estate cartel, to be totally honest with you. I'd like to open the show up though by thanking a person that is a member of Clean Economy Coalition. He's also the president of our local Surfriders Foundation, or the Surfrider Foundation, and that's one Neil McQueen. He's been working diligently on his project, and I've tried to help him all I can. At times we get bogged down, and he's got his special interests to do, and I support him, and he supports us with Clean Economy Coalition. But what he's been able to do is pull together members of the Surfrider Foundation and also the general public over at Port Aransas, and then some people from here in Corpus Christi joined in, and so Rockport and Aransas Pass and so forth. And what they've been able to pull off as of yesterday, Friday I think that was announced, is when the meeting took place, but and this is Saturday the 20th. But it says Port Aransas bans plastic bags. And what Neil and his crowd have done is they are really opposed to having these plastic bags that you see blowing everywhere. They're called South Texas tumbleweeds, I think, around this portion of the world, or something to that effect. And they have a profound effect not only on the unsightly environment we've got around here, but also it's a big problem with sea life and wildlife and so forth in general, birds particularly, and fish and marine mammals and that type of stuff, the turtles and so forth. So I think they've done an excellent job of doing this, and Port Aransas, I think it was a 5-to-1 vote in favor of, yes it was, the vote was 5-to-1 with local restaurant owner Edwin Myers casting the dissenting vote. Okay, and it says that the ban puts Port Aransas on a growing list of Texas cities that have adopted some form of plastic bag restriction. The list of at least 10 cities, including Austin, Dallas, Freer, Brownsville, Laredo, and South Padre Island, are some of the few. In addition, 2 states and 20 countries have regulated single-use bags to curb littering, according to Neil McQueen, president of the local chapter of the Surfrider Foundation, which campaigns for bag bans through its Skip the Plastic program. And they've done a wonderful job, folks. So that was quite a feat pulling that off. And I hope that if you people want to join in with our Clean Economy Coalition, which is, this is the logo that we've got, the t-shirt, and it used to be the No Las Brisas Energy Center logo, which was so widely publicized for a long time by our group. But we meet, the Clean Economy Coalition, on the second Sunday of every month, and it's at 3 o'clock on that Sunday afternoon at 430 Waco Street, and that's right over by the county jailhouse on Lipan. So all you have to do is if you look for Waco Street, it's not hard to find. It's a big white house with a chain link fence up around it, and it's 430 Waco Street, 3 o'clock, second Sunday of the month, if you'd like to join in. And we were, supporting this band bag, we meaning the Clean Economy Coalition, for a long time. And thank you, Neil, for pulling that off. That'll set a good precedent around here. And maybe, unless we've got too many city council members that are interested in making money on plastic bags around here, then maybe we can get our silly council down here to join in with the rest of the world. Okay. Now, another thing I want to say is I got notice today, and this is the Harbor Bridge project. Now, I've got some real knee-jerk reactions to a lot of that. I think we're opening up a can of worms environmentally that maybe not want to be taken care of, but it's going to have to be taken care of if that bridge is going to be replaced down there. And I didn't know it, but the entrance ramp's going to be backed up down crosstown roughly to where that music store is. I can't remember. Oh, is it Galvan? Anyway, so it's going to take up a lot of space if you're going to climb another 100 feet in the air, and you can't have as steep a grade as you've got on the current bridge, so it's going to have to be spread out. I understand that they're going to have to dig in some of the land around there where the old oil storage tanks used to be, so there's no telling what's soaked into the earth there. They may have to remove half of Corpus Christi to clean that up before we can get it done. But I've just got notice that the availability of the final environmental impact statement that's on the Harbor Bridge, Nueces County, Texas. So I think you can go down and get a copy of that and look at it down at the main library. It's the La Retama Central Library on Comanche Street, and then the OVL Williams Senior Center on Martin Luther King Drive, Corpus Christi, and then the Department of Transportation office at 1701 South Padre Island Drive. And then I think they've got a site also you can go online. It's www.ccharborbridgeproject.com. I haven't tried to look that up. But this is the final environmental impact study. And it's going to be very interesting to see what's going to have to be done down there. People are relocated, and how much pollution and stuff is going to be kicked up with that. If they do it properly, I don't think many people have a big problem with that. But if they do their usual business here in Corpus Christi, they can screw up a one-car funeral. It's real easy for the city and county and state officials to do things like that. If you think about it, it's very difficult to mess up a one-car funeral, but I'm sure that I've seen them do that before. Then, as far as environmentally goes, I took a real beating financially, and I took a real beating as far as my efforts being ground into the dirt with the trying to get U.S. Ecology Texas over there reined in so they're not polluting that entire neighborhood over there. And I'll take a sip of water and tell you what happened. Now, we had some people that lived right across the highway from this thing. It got to be a real mess. It's very polluting over there. It's very potentially dangerous to the environment and to the people's health and welfare that lived around there. There was an older couple that lived right across the street, and they came to Clean Economy Coalition when we were fighting Las Brisas Energy Center. And I was curious enough and trying to help the people of Robstown area over there. That's where it is. It's a little bit south, and I believe it must be east of Robstown. Now, what they do is they take in all types of waste from all over the countryside. It's trucked in, it's poured out, and then quote-unquote processed and decontaminated things, and then they've got a big burial site over there, these big mounds of dirt that they're burying all that stuff in. And they say that they've got a concrete cradle underneath all that so that when it leaches down into that soil, it can't get through the concrete and into the local water table and soils and so forth. And I don't believe that that's being closely monitored. The Texas Commission on Environmental Quality is the people that should be doing that, and TCEQ gives them permit after permit, and they can do pretty much anything they damn well please out there. And with the state of Texas And the TCEQ folks is supposed to be taking care of the citizens' health and welfare. And again, it's just like any government entity. What they're doing is they're just in with the big money boys, and you know they love to see Rick Perry get some more donations from all of these polluting companies and so forth. And now our esteemed Greg Abbott, our governor-elect, and all of his cronies. Okay. And I've dealt with TCEQ for 5 years, folks, and with the Las Brisas thing, and I tell you what, that's one of the most screwed up groups I've seen in my life. And self-centered, self-serving, and they don't give a damn about your health as far as I'm concerned. So I hope somebody will go ahead and film this and send it up to TCEQ and wrap it up as Governor Perry leaves, and give Greg Abbott a new copy of this thing. I mean, I'm that perturbed with them. Okay, now here's what they want to do. This is U.S. Ecology, Texas, out there near Robstown. It says that what they want to do is they've applied for a permit to authorize the discharge of storm water at an intermittent and flow variable rate by way of the outfalls 001, 002, 003, and 004. The facility is located at that address in Robstown, Texas. This discharge route is from the plant site to Nueces County District 2 Drainage Ditch Number 1, thence to Petronilla Creek above tidal. Okay? Well, Petronilla Creek, folks, eventually winds up down in Baffin Bay. Okay? And it says they received this on October 2014, and you can go see a copy of it at the Keach Family Library at Terry Shampsey Boulevard, Robstown. Okay? Now, what that ditch is it goes down through the agricultural end of it. It also goes right next to a large garbage dump that's next door to U.S. Ecology. And what my beef was I had that couple come to me and ask me to get Clean Economy Coalition involved in reining in some of those proposals, and they're always after new amounts of pollution that they can do, and they wanted to run 24 hours a day with big lights on out there and machines roaring and so forth. And that's right in the middle of agricultural country, and there are some housing projects right around there and enough people to be disturbed. And it's the same old adage, you know, people don't give a damn about taxpayers and landowners around here. And I'll come to the annexation and Apex Energy wind farm in just a little bit, okay? But what I did was I spent a lot of money. I challenged the TCEQ and U.S. Ecology on some of their processes that they were trying to do on some of their permits they'd filed for. And then all of a sudden, when I went to the meeting to talk to the TCEQ attorneys, TCEQ and the U.S. Ecology people, they said, oh, here, by the way, here's a letter, and the people that are the mainstay of this have decided to back off, and they're not going to oppose the new permits. So that threw me right into the sewer, folks, and they flushed me on down the sewer. So that was a very painful lesson for me to learn, and then some of the other people out there had backed off of it. So, you know, all I can do is try to help you out, and if that doesn't help, then, you know, if you don't want the help, then all I resent was I spent a lot of time and effort and money out there personally to help those people out, and got that one stuffed in my left ear. Okay, I'm not bitter about it, folks. It's a learning process, and you know I do the same thing with students at Del Mar College and other employees at Del Mar College and other entities around town, and every once in a while I do get poked in the ribs for it, and you know, people take my effort to help in the wrong way. But you know, I've got a hell of a lot more students that I've helped and didn't complain and appreciate the help, and that's what I'm in town to do. You know, if I've only got one or two disgruntled people that say that I make them fearful, and what was the other? Uncomfortable and fearful, my general attitude and so forth. All right, I can't. I get all choked up when I think about that one. It makes me laugh. Okay. And that's happened, like I say, with one faculty member and one student so far. And but it's outnumbered by a whole bunch of other people who I think appreciate my efforts and the efforts of Clean Economy Coalition and the Taxpayers Association to help them out. Then we've got the M&G plant. It's a new plastics plant over here, and this sounds intriguing to me. I'm going to follow up a little bit more. But M&G resins plant is on the ship channel. They've got quite a bit of frontage on that channel. Now they're going to be using smaller ships, I think, to bring in the raw material so they can make their plastics and so forth and so on, and that plastic goes into food containers and beverage bottles and that type of thing. And it's going to be, I think, the world's largest single line producer of those materials for the plastics. Okay. Now what they're going to do is the port is going to spend $24.8 million for a dock, and this is next to the port, but they can accommodate up to a 700-foot vessel there. So I guess what the deal is, as far as I can read it, if I'm correct, is M&G is going to go ahead and allow that dock to be put up not only for their benefit, but for the port's benefit and other people out there that have the big ships come in to deliver goods for them. And I think that's probably a good thing. I may get shot down with that, but you know, and they said they can pay for the dockage fees within 10 years, and then after that, then they'll be making money in addition to their, you know, after they pay that $24.8 million off. Okay, so I just wanted to throw that out. And then another one over here was the ethylene plant project kicks off, and that's over there within the old former naval station Ingleside, where they're going to make ethylene. Okay, and I think it's OxyChem and Mexichem are the two entities that are going to do that, and they're going to wrap that building up. It looks like 2017 is when they're going to be going into production, and they've got one of the big docks, and right there at Ingleside on the bay is bumped up against those. I don't know that that's going to be terribly polluting if they do it properly, but we know what happens. You know, every once in a while we get the refinery leaks and so forth and so out here. But I guess that's just part of living in Texas here. Here's an editorial that says no excuses for the problems found by county auditors. I think we need to get auditors over here at Del Mar College and down the city probably, and all the rest of the things around here, because it appears that we've got some real problems with people lifting a little bit of tax money away from people. And I just like to have the peace of mind to have these studies done around here by somebody that knows what they're doing. And then I'll come back to that one. It says $7.2 million grant to age college readiness. Okay, this one was granted to, let's see, by the Department of Education, and will fund Texas University Kingsville is going to do that and work with 3, I think, middle schools around here, and try to get the students ready for graduation and then going on to college and so forth. And I'm going to discuss Del Mar and this problem we've got with their woes over there, as far as that goes here, pretty quick. But that's good. I'm glad to see the Department of Education supporting us around here, and you know, I'll do just about anything I can to try to help these middle school people get interested. We do at Del Mar. There's several of us faculty members that host science shows, and other departments over there have students come in at the middle school level, and that can really change a person's view of obtaining a decent education and going on to college and so forth and so on, and stimulating, you know, going into the trades. Del Mar's got one of the best vocational schools around out there, and you know. All right, then it says that the funding's now okayed for the desalination study. Desalination, now they've dropped the desalinization, which it was for years, and it says the city offers up to $50,000 toward the cost. I think that's the study itself, and then they may build a little small pilot plant and see what they can do around here to see if we can get the water from the desal process. Okay? And then I'm glad to see that Supreme Court to review EPA mercury limits and see if they're going to hold people to the fire on mercury. It is from a biochemical standpoint, of which I am one. I can tell you that mercury is devastating on living systems and so forth and so on. So I just hope that we can keep a lid on the mercury. That was one of my big complaints about the Las Brisas Energy Center out here, was a massive amount of mercury that would be spewing from that place and polluting everything around here. Then we've got the council race costs. The trends are up. I think I mentioned that last time. The more money you can pull in, the higher chance you've got to be an elected official. I'm still rather perturbed that we can't get some of you people off your backsides and go vote and pay attention to what these people are saying and doing, and find out what these different candidates are all about. Now, another thing that's blown up here lately in the news with a lot of finger pointing and so forth is when Ralph Coker wrote a editorial and said that we ought to let the city grow on its own and the way it's going to grow, rather than try to use all these high-priced $1-million plans from outsiders that come walking around here and they say, oh, well, it'd be nice to have a bird bath over here, and it'd be nice to have a shoe polishing stand right over here, and it would be nice to do this, that, and the other, and that's what you ought to do. And by the way, thank you for your $1 million study that we've just done, and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So what Mr. Coker said, as a sophisticated businessman around here, he ran the refineries, I think was director out at one of them for a while. And then that all hell broke loose after that. Okay, the first one that jumped in here, I believe, was, let's see, where's Nick, or not Nick Adames, but Joe Adames. I thought I had it in here. I guess I didn't. Well, he jumped all, oh, here it is, yeah. He jumped all over Coker, said he didn't know what he was doing, and that we do need to plan this on every brick and every piece of rebar that goes into the sidewalks and every outdoor light, at night and so forth and so on. And we need to spend a great deal of money doing that. And then that way we can make sure that the real estate cartel, of which he was the leader down here, the mayor for a while, can make plenty of money doing that. Okay? And the only problem I've got with it is I've been in this city for 25 years, and I've seen mayors come and mayors go, and city council members go and come, and so forth and so on, and it grew into a real estate cartel down here. And most of those plans have never been implemented, if you really want to know the truth. So, who's the sucker now? Taxpayers, okay? They just, buy and sell based on that stuff and make money, and then, the plans are never implemented. And if they are, they're things like reroute a shoreline, which is an abysmal failure as far as I'm concerned. And, we need to tear down the Coliseum. And I'll come back to that in just a minute, okay? I mentioned it on the other show just a few minutes ago, what my thoughts were with that mess. So Joe Adami, he says, I seldom read Ralph Coker's forums, but the heading, Let Corpus Christi Grow in Its Own Way, on Sunday got my attention. To find out if the various vision planning efforts have been successful and useful, you need to take the time to research and be smart enough to know the purpose of each plan. Well, I know what the purpose is. It's to pay Buddy's designers big money, and then they're not implemented. So I'm going to go at your beck and call here, Mr. Adami, and I'm going to go look that up and see how many of those plans are still sitting in the dust pile down there at the city, okay, and how much money we spent, and put you back on the forefront with that one and see if we can get your attention, okay. And it says, this was Daniel Hogan, this was just about a week ago, Plan City Growth or Suffer Consequences, December 11th. Johnny Cotton may not approve of the type of planning and zoning as applied in Houston, but often less really is more. And that was Johnny Cotton wrote, it says, plan city growth or suffer the consequences. So, you know, I don't know. I think he's an architect around here who would be very interested in making a whole bunch of money if some of these plans were implemented. Well, if they were any good and we could afford them, then we'd probably be in pretty good shape, Mr. Cotton. But, you know, I don't know which group down there you're with, but it just doesn't make any sense to me. Let's just rein it up, and then I'm going to talk about the annexation here in a minute. And then James Rainey said Coker has right view of visioning, and that's true. Okay, and then Philip Davis, I think I may have mentioned this one last time too. He said, "Say it ain't so, Joe," and he's on him about how much money is spent with that. I rarely get into national politics, but this one upsets me a good bit. It says, ex-staffer sues Farenthol's office, meaning Blake Farenthol, who's our U.S. congressman from around here, U.S. representative. And I hope that this doesn't turn out to be as potentially devastating for not only Mr. Farenthol, but the rest of us around here. Now, I'm not a Farenthol fan, folks. I've made that quite clear. And, you know, I think that to have a Lieutenant Colonel, Marine Corps veteran, fighter pilot veteran running for the office would have been a whole lot more sane than this one. And then it says, Farenhol's woes start with tweet. I guess he had a rather off-color comment or statement or logo, whatever, on a tweet that he had. And nobody who knew Farenthol said they thought he had any X-rated intentions for the domain. I guess the domain name was this, that, and the other, and now some people are crawling out of the woodwork trying to explain what that was all about. And that's exactly what we need down here. So I hope we can clear that thing up pretty quick, Mr. Farenthol. Go out and purge your soul. Let's get it over with. Now, another thing that has bugged me considerably lately was the fact that everybody is jumping down one of the Del Mar College Board of Regents members, Mr. Guy Watts. Okay? Now, I've got mixed emotions about what he wrote in the Island Moon newspaper. I know he's been on a tear for a long time to try to upgrade the quality of education and so forth at Del Mar College, and he did it, I guess, with the plan of not having this thing backfire on him, but people, you know, join in there with him and see if we can't, you know, draw the better students into Del Mar College. I'm not saying that we've got the worst by any stretch of the imagination, and folks, over 25 years I've had some fantastic students at Del Mar College. Some of them are physicians now, vets, dentists, so forth and so on, professors at different places. And an awful lot of the allied health people. I can't go through a hospital without having an old home week and meeting there with the very large number of RNs and respiratory techs and surge techs and so forth that I run into around those medical facilities. So I think the world of Del Mar College, and I think that the function of the community college is to give everyone in the community, no matter what their background is or their preparation, a chance to succeed. That's the reason that we have the developmental courses over there. I hate to call them remedial. They are developmental. My deceased wife, she was an instructor over there at Del Mar College, professor of developmental reading, and she knew what she was doing, and she'd take those folks into a class and show them how to read, how to comprehend what they should be getting out of the reading assignments and so forth, so they could succeed in the straight college courses and then go on to four-year institutions, graduate schools. She had physicians that went through there too, and people that just needed that developmental aspect in their life. So they do teach developmental, not remedial. I hate that word. They teach developmental math, English, and reading. Okay, so and that is the I guess that's one of the missions, important missions of Del Mar College. Now, I am vocal when I say that I would hope that we could get more students through CCISD that could go to Del Mar and not have to spend a semester or two in a developmental course, but I'm quite willing as a taxpayer to extend that option and that opportunity for our students to do that. And I'm not going to get in the middle of criticizing Mr. Watts for that. Now, the editorial came out, they first started throwing barbs at them in the newspaper. It said in one of the articles that Del Mar, chastised the region in a meeting. I think that was the December 9th Board of Regents meeting. And then there was some, the editorial that came out that says Del Mar Board is right to take issue with Regent Watts. I agree with that. I think that everybody ought to take issue if you don't agree with that and what he said. I'm a true believer in freedom of speech, and I think the point that was made there was that when that article was written, Mr. Watts put his byline down as a Del Mar College Regent, and I think that's what opened that can of worms up. Okay. Now, personally, and there was an editorial, I think I'm going to try to, a letter to the editor I'm going to try to find in this, that was published today, and it was one that indicated that this may be a good time to have this discussion in this local community. Okay, so there were some things said and done that people I think have taken in the wrong way. Some of them are taking it in the right way, and the discussion needs to be made. Now, I grew up as a military brat predominantly in the Southeast. My dad, after the Second World War, was sent down to Albany, Georgia. There was a big Air Force base there. It was called Turner Air Force Base. That's where all the OP-51 pilots came back and flew, and then they transitioned into jet fighters and so forth down there. And I grew up in that very bigoted, racist environment down there that Albany, Georgia was for a lot of years. Okay, so I've seen it firsthand. Now, the military brats that were with me, my family and friends and so forth, that whole group of fighter pilots and mechanics and everybody else under the sun that were associated with the Air Force there, we knew that it didn't make any difference what your color was, what your gender was, what your national origin was, what native language you spoke. If you all couldn't get along for the common good of keeping everybody safe and keeping the Air Force base down there functioning the way it should have been, then you were just out of luck. It doesn't work, folks. Okay? So I hate to see these accusations of racism raise their ugly heads around here, because I know an awful lot of people here of different races and so forth and so on, and national origins, and I've got friends on all sides of that, and it just tears me up to see that we get into this battle with ethnicities. Okay, and that's why I kind of got a little perturbed when it says that the board should be able to take issue with Regent Watts, and then got pretty blunt about, they say he's name calling, but what did the newspaper do? They turned around and joined in the same thing. And then here's one from Mr. Nick Jimenez, and he said Watts's elitism is a thin disguise, and then in this also there's alluding to being possible not only an elitist but a racist. Okay. Now, I don't know Mr. Watts well enough to know if he preaches that or not. I've known him for 25 years, and that letter was the first time I'd seen any reference to any type of segregation. What he wanted to do was, he says we have the prepared students in Corpus Christi, Texas, and then we've got the unprepared. Now, that is true. Okay, and a lot of that does and is predicated on the economic stature of a lot of people in this community. If you've got a successful business or a position where you can make decent money for your family and so forth, then you're going to have kids that are going to have a leg up on those that are in poverty around here. And there are an awful lot of those people. And poverty just rips my heart out, because we could be doing an awful lot more in this town to help our fellow citizens rather than keep them in poverty. Okay? And taxing the hell out of people is not one of them. Mr. Adami and Lloyd Neal and Nelda Martinez and the rest of these people around here, the real estate cartel known as City Council, and Del Mar College, and then writing off $2,800,000 in bad debts. That just goes through me. That could have support the education of an awful lot of people, folks. Okay? And then, like I say, the article came out on the 10th. This was the next day that the board criticizes Regent's comments. And then during that meeting, I sat through every minute of that. Dr. Mark Escamilla was visibly upset with Mr. Watts's comments. And he read a statement at the board meeting which was rather terse. And you know, I don't think he was out of line doing that, but it sure stirred it up over there, and I think we need to start calming it down rather than keep stirring it. Okay, so he took issue with the statement that Mr. Watts made that said Del Mar College has not been swamped by unprepared students. Well, Watts says that it was. Okay, I'm not so sure swamped is it, but I know we've got our fair share. And then Dr. Escamilla did point out that the actual developmental English, math, and reading classes have actually decreased over the last 10 years. Now, I took issue with it because we've now got Mrs. Carol Scott, who's the wife of Mark Scott, who's on the city council. She just came off the CCISD board, and she was instrumental in getting teachers' contracts cut from 3 years back to 1. And if everything was so great over there with Scott Eliff in that crowd, why did we have so many unprepared students coming out of CCISD and having to take remedial courses over the last 10 years from English, math, and reading classes? Okay? So even though it's decreased, that's great. I hope that CCISD is finally doing something to help us out. But you know, if I were in control of this situation, I'd just send those students back to CCISD until those students could read, write, add, subtract, multiply, and divide, and not need a developmental class at Del Mar College. But if they do need it, I'm all for providing that. Don't get me wrong. And you can see the dilemma and all of that. We've created a monster here, and we try to put out correct the monster over here, and it's just not working real well. But I don't think we need all these diatribes calling everybody racist and elitists and segregationists and everything else to cure the problem. I think what we need to do is to sit down and have everybody that's written anything about this sit down and take a big deep breath, lock the door, bring your lunch in and enough water to get you through the day, and not unlock the door till everybody's hashed it out and figured out what in the world we're going to do to correct this. Okay, so we can point all of the the fingers we want at each other. Now, I have seen some things that go on at Del Mar College, and I've preached them on the air, that I'm not real happy and fond of. But and I think that at times Dr. Escamilla has lost control of that ship that he's the captain of, and sometimes it looks like it's headed straight for the sandbar or the barrier, and it concerns me deeply. But I'm glad he said what he had to say about this. He tried to correct the record with statistics from the school and so forth. But I think that the rest of the community needs to get off everybody's back and not have something as inflammatory as this rebuttal by Cochise is what the thing is, and it's the one that gets off on Escamilla and everybody else. See, we've got certain factions like LULAC over here all upset that they think that Mr. Watts is a racist, I guess. Nick Jimenez thinks he's an elitist. And then we've got some in the community that write tripe like this, okay? And this is more disastrous than I think the other groups have done. But this was in response to Nick Jimenez's thing. It's worth reading for the second time on the air. I think I covered this one in detail on the last show, but this one sticks in my craw. And like I say, I've seen racism at its very peak with Klansmen and everything else living in the Southeast, in both Georgia, Alabama, and then having ties with family here in Texas for years past. All right. Now it says, "Hey, Nicky Poo," meaning Nick Jimenez, "let's pass everybody, period. If we're a minority, you should get a passing grade and not even have to show up for class." Now that is about as racist as you can get, okay? So, Cochise, whoever you are, I hope and wish that your armpits are infested by the fleas from 2,000 camels, and then that your tongue muscles freeze up every 30 seconds from now until you're gone from this world. That's a very, very racist statement if I've ever heard one. And then it says, "As someone who does work for Del Mar, I can tell you Escamilla is an idiot." Now that's a reference to President Mark Escamilla, the president of Del Mar College. Now I hope that I never run into you over there at Del Mar and figure out who you are, because I'm going to have some very terse and sincere comments to make to you, okay? Dr. Mark Escamilla is not an idiot, okay? I think he needs to pay a little bit more attention to things at times. That's my personal view. I've told him that personally, face to face. And, you know, maybe he'll come around and do that. The only reason he got the president's job was because of his name. Now, that's not true either, folks, okay? There were several different ethnicities that went into the selection of that president, okay? And that board came down to 3 finalists the first time, 2 women and a man, and the man was the only survivor. The 2 women backed out. They had another one, and then that other man who's mentioned in here did not get the presidency, but Dr. Mark Escamilla was the one that was chosen, okay? But I don't think that the reason he got the president's job was because of his name, because I know that entire board was not all of the Hispanic background and people that were really for him. And, you know, I mean, if you really want to know the truth, Mr. Guy Watts was, and so was Mrs. Chris Adler and some other people over there that I know of that are non-Hispanic. So I don't think that had a damn thing to do with it, and I hope that I can get that across to you. He is so far in over his head, he would need a crane to get out. Now, like I say, I've disagreed with him on some things over there, Cochise, whoever you may be, but I can't say that he's in over his head. Like I say, I wish he'd pay a little bit more attention to certain items over there. I think he's starting to get the picture. But, you know, to say he's in over his head with his background, I can't testify to that and back that statement up. Okay, and then he said Sloan should have been the president. Now, who Sloan is Dr. Lee Sloan. He is the chief financial officer over there. Dr. Sloan obtained an EDD, which is a Doctor of Education degree in agricultural education, and then he was instated as our Vice President of Business, Finance, and other things, and now goes with the handle of the Chief Financial Officer. And I'm going to talk about the money here in just a minute. But, you know, I don't think that he was presidential material at all. That's my personal view, okay? He said, okay, talk with some of the professors off the record. Well, I'm going to speak on the record and off the record, Cochise, and I'm going to tell you that I have not encountered a racist at your level in many, many years. And I've seen some of the very worst wearing hoods, burning crosses in South Georgia. Okay? All right? The majority of the students have a difficult time finding their classrooms. Now, that's not true. Okay? I'm sure if you were thrown into a situation in a city where you didn't have a map or anything and you were told to go over to the city hall, you may have a little bit of a difficulty finding that too. So how you can be so judgmental is just beyond me. So like I say, this irks me. I think it's totally despicable. Whoever you are, Cochise, and hide behind something like that term is just, it's frightening to me. I do a lot for Del Mar College. I'm down their necks a whole bunch and so forth and so on, and I resent the stuffings out of you being that big a racist over there. I think I used the term moron last time. Then Mac Appersbach, who's a faculty member over there, said Del Mar's mission versus one regent's view. He disagreed with Mr. Watts. No to segregation, yes to access for all. This was David Ainsworth. I think he's the president of the Del Mar College Foundation, who puts out awful lot of money for scholarships and so forth, and they do a good job with that foundation. They help a lot of students, and some of those may have to get through a developmental class. So more power to you, students. Okay, and if you ever are over there walking around and need a hand finding a classroom or whatever, or getting yourself advised and let you know where you stand as far as developmental courses and so forth go, I'm in the Garcia Science Building on East Campus on the second floor in room 234. So come on up there and we'll get you started. Okay? There's no reason that a person like Cochise would say that you people are too stupid to find a classroom. Most people will ask Cochise, like I say, whoever you may be. And then we had Ruben Garza. This is today. Regent Watts. This is the 21st century. He got down his neck. Dolores Huerta, I know her very well. She's over in the business department, and she wrote in and was a little bit irate about that. And she did, said that I do not consider myself as a mediocre instructor, but rather one who is committed, and she's not mediocre by any stretch of the imagination. She's an excellent professor over there. And I can see where there were a lot of people upset about some of the comments that Mr. Watts wrote. Okay, but like I say, let's just sit down and cooperate. Let's work it out. I know that some people over there at Del Mar have a real hard time sitting down and discussing problems, and that's just not in their nature. And then when I try to convince them to sit down and talk to me, my behavior makes them uncomfortable and fearful, and I'll let that one go. One of these days, I'm not going to divulge what that's all about. I'll just say that happened to me with one faculty member and one student so far, just this past semester. It's frustrating. But Ruben Garza wants him gone, and then Roger Bateman came a little bit closer, and I think I need to read this one. I think he's getting closer to what my point of view and what lessons we should learn from this whole thing should be. It says, time to remove Regent was an election. Del Mar College Regent Guy Watts recently espoused a highly unpopular view recommending that unprepared students be placed exclusively at the West Campus. Now, I do not know whether Mr. Watts is a thoughtless racist, which I actually doubt, or whether he has recommendations, or his recommendation is the product of a long, let's see, this doesn't read this right, or whether his recommendation is the product of a long, thoughtful study, which may or may not have reached a wrong conclusion on which may have opened up a topic for productive discussion. Well, that's the positive way to look at it. Okay, I'm concerned at the call for his ouster, the ballot box. If he seeks election, is the time to consider that. For now, are we so fearful and unpopular of unpopular ideas that we must threaten the author? The idea of free speech is an integral part of who we are. If he criticize, if his critics are right and Mr. Watts is totally wrong, surely a full debate is preferable to forthcoming removing from him from office. Okay? All right. Or forthwith removing him. History shows that unpopular views sometimes have merit and lead to productive outcomes. While this may not be the case this time, I must voice my dissent to the clamor to silence or remove Mr. Watts. And like I say, this was Roger Bateman, and I was thinking those same thoughts seriously, Mr. Bateman, yesterday when I was getting ready to try to formulate what my topic's going to be today. So let's just cut out all the racist comments, Cochise, and from all points of view, here, there, and everywhere, and let's just sit down and have an intelligent and calm discussion about this and see if we can work this out in a little bit better manner than calling for somebody's head. Okay? That's the easy way out. So let's learn a lesson with that. All right. Now, I've got a few things to say about the financial end of Del Mar College. Okay? Now, I have 2 Public Information Act requests here from Mr. Ed Bennett, bachelor's degree in accounting, master's degree in accounting, CPA, and a very seasoned CPA and business person. Okay? He's worked with a lot of major corporations around. He knows books when he sees them, and so forth and so on. So I'm going to one more time give you the background of what I was after last year, almost a year and a half ago. I was at a workshop of the Board of Regents, and the Chief Financial Officer, Dr. Lee Sloan, got up and said that they were going to have to write off some funds that were owed to the college because all collection efforts had been exhausted. Okay? So I was curious about that and the way it was presented, so I went under Public Information Act, Texas Public Information Act request, and requested any documents that were involved up to 2013, okay, concerning the write-offs. So I get this 5-foot stack of paper, and I'm going through that, and it was like finding the golden needle in the haystack. But I found a document, actually 3 of them, that indicated that Del Mar College had written off $185,000. Now, in addition to asking for the information, I asked for any of the certified return receipt cards that the U.S. Postal Service provides at a cost, okay? And it's a little green card, they call them. And what happens is you attach that to your letter, and the person that the letter is addressed to has to sign that card with the postman there, or go to the post office and pick it up and sign it. And then I know that that letter had been received and by whom. Okay? I use it all the time for these Public Information Act requests. Otherwise, I'm going to get the big runaround from a lot of different people. Now, I sent that off, and it was in August of 2013 is when I went through that. Now, in that stack of paperwork, there was not one document that was in any evidence that anybody that owed Del Mar College was going to, or had been asked to pay it back and contacted. The only thing I saw were of a lot of students that go to Del Mar College, unfortunately for taxpayers at federal, state, and local level, will go over there and borrow money, and then they don't complete their course, or they don't even start it, and they walk away with the money and go spend it the way they want to. Now, you know, that to me is despicable and fraud, but you know, that exists in this world, unfortunately. So what I found out was some of the students received letters stating, well, you'll never get a transcript from us unless you pay us back. And you can make arrangements to pay us back, and I'm sure some of them did. But there's a horrendous amount of money that goes uncollected from student debt like that, okay, on student loans. Now, then I went down the list that was non-student debt, and on that $185,000, the Texas A&M University, Kingsville, apparently owed $54,000 some odd cents to Del Mar College. Okay? Why? How? And so forth. And those inquiries have been made, and then they've been stalling us out. I can't get that information through Del Mar College, and I can't get that information through Texas A&M yet. But I'm going to stay right in the middle of the Attorney General's back until we find it. There was an $89,000 write-off for the Coastal Bend Council of Governments. Okay? Now, I called those people and I said, are you taxpayer-based? I'm going to file a Public Information Act request and find out why you owed Del Mar College $89,000 and vice versa from Del Mar College. And that question's been asked. It's gone unanswered. Now, the woman on the phone told me that they had nothing to do with taxpayers' money, and I looked them up, and they get funds from state revenues and federal revenues and all kinds of stuff. So I'm going to have another serious talk with Greg Abbott before he becomes governor, and also whoever takes over as the the Texas Attorney General. Okay, I'm going to find out, folks. I don't roll over. Now, then, and subsequent to that, and then, CCAT owed us some money, and Verizon Telephone owed us some money, and Boeing Aircraft owed us some money, and so forth and so on. And now I found out from some new ones that in 2010 there was a $42,754.48 write-off courtesy for the United States Navy. Now, why in the world would they owe us that kind of money? So then we're asking for more stuff, but I've got about 3 minutes left before I have to get off, 2.5 minutes. But let me read you the list of write-offs. These are amount of accounts receivable written off as uncollectible by Del Mar College. Okay, 2007, $67,190. 2008, $1,444,000. 407. Okay, $1,444,407. Okay, 2009, 125,256. 2010, 26,925. 2011, $195,895. 2012 was $487,922. 2013 was $243,148, and 2014 was $247,584. And the total from 2007 to this period in time is $2,838,327. And my question is why? And then Del Mar wants to try to scare people off asking for information by telling them it's going to cost them $26.7 million and it's going to take 120 years to go over the books from 2007 on. Give me a break, folks, okay? Something stinks over there, and I'm going to get to the bottom of it yet. I promise you taxpayers that. I'm very, very discouraged by what's going on over there in that business department and the manner in which it's being done, and I think the taxpayers are owed a lot more than that type of treatment. And since I am the president of the Corpus Christi Taxpayers Association, then I need to keep that up, and then I'm disturbed with a lot of this stuff around the community as the Clean Economy Coalition chair. So at times I can be about as popular as inflamed hemorrhoids, folks, but hey, that's the way life goes sometimes. I'm going to go turn the camera off and hope that you have been educated to the point where you know what to do next time, and please go out and vote. And as we say in the Taxpayers Association, silence is not the answer. Okay, back with the banner here. Like I say, the addresses and all of their emails and so forth and so on. I've been getting some feedback that some of my fellow faculty members are a little bit hot with me about things that I say and do and try to do for Del Mar College and the taxpayers and the students. And frankly, Scarlett, that's the only thing I can say about that. But anyway, please contact me. Let me know what you think. I'm not afraid to face my accusers, as they say, and I'll be glad to help anybody. So if any of you students out there wandering around can't find the classroom, then we'll find out who Coach East is, and I'll send you over there to their workspace. Anyway, I'll talk to you later. Goodbye and good night.